Well, I'm Jack Liu, founder and CEO of Wanchain. We have many colleagues, a whole team over here to show what is Wanchain about. And we're going to talk about where the Wanchain came from and where we are and also where we're going. So remember back in 2014, I was with the Factum team. Thanks so much, so many of my previous colleagues over here. And we talk about, where we can do, what we can do and where we're going in terms of the blockchain industry. And I often look back in the history of the internet, look for inspiration and also look for experience. A lot of people are saying that history is your best teacher, right? So when I look back in the internet, right, in the 70s, there are many LAN networks out there, local area networks. And in a different office setup, several computers are connected, but they're not connected to the outside world. And LAN networks and other LAN networks, they use different protocols. They don't talk to each other. And later on, in the 80s, a lot of pioneers came up with different mechanisms, try to connect with different networks. And we call it wide area networks. And one of the most famous projects was called ARPANET. We used to connect some of the universities in the west coast of the US, and then gradually expand to the east coast and to other cities around the world, and became the foundation of today's internet. And then, once we have the TCP/IP, the basic protocol for the network, and then it came up with HTTP, enable the World Wide Web, and also allow the new browsers to come out. Started with Mosaic, Netscape, and many other explorers. With the explorers, of course, you can do more things, like the applications on top of that. Often we can see the Facebook, there's so many big names out there, right? And the two examples I usually use is Amazon and Alibaba. I've been in the e-commerce world for quite a few years, and I always inspired by them. Really e-commerce revolution, just like the blockchain revolution today. And move all the offline commerce online and transfer the whole world, right? And look at all the graphics in the past. It wasn't good at all. It's just like today's blockchain world, I guess. And a few years later, in 2007 and 2008, when the smartphone came out, Apple and the Android phone, and really brought the mass adoptions. And I guess in the future, we will have wearables and IoT devices will further this advancement. Yesterday, I was talking with Stephen from Rivets, and I saw his presentation right here. I think he brought a good direction for the industry. With the mobile devices, it will allow you to prove who you are and where you are when you do the transactions on blockchain. And that hopefully will bring the mass adoption for the blockchain industry faster. Come back to the 2008. This morning, somebody was asking me, is it 10 years anniversary for Bitcoin now? And asked me what will be the topic for this year. And I look back, I was saying, it creates a great social experiment, and also for the technology world as well. And to create a new faith, a new belief system around the world. It's a really great invention for us and for all of us to be here. But at the same time, it seems like it's just a network by itself. There are many other coins came out, like Peercoin, Litecoin, or Nextcoin, or even Ethereum. Ethereum made a big advancement. It brought smart contract onto blockchain, make it programmable. Although it seems like not a big step, but bring a lot of impact to our industry. But still, with this advancement, all these networks are not talking to each other. They're all like different tribes. They don't speak the same language. So back in 2015, I was invited to give speeches around the world. And in one of the museums called the Internet Finance Museum. And I was shocked to find myself, my picture on the wall. And I was inspired by that. So well, maybe what I was doing really could change the world, change the history of the industry. At the same time, the museum gave me a very good present. The present is the blueprint of the original ARPANET network. And I was really inspired. I said, well, what should I do? What should I contribute to the industry? So in 2016, I started a company called Wanchain. And we had a separate research team doing the research and trying to find out what would be the generic method to connect not only the public chains, but also the private chains, or consortium chains. And after about 6 months of research, and research team came back with a very good solution. And we tried proof of concept, and afterwards, we launched the Wanchain project in 2017. Also, of course, we want to take baby steps every time. But the future is very, very big for Wanchain. We try to connect with the private chains and also the public chains together. And then we have privacy protection on top of that. And in the future, we can expand this network. We create mini Wanchains, and they're all connected to the same network. We can create the same protocol, like TCP/IP, and create another protocol, application layer protocol, like HTTP, and enable lots of applications. So here's where we are. Early this year, we launched our mainnet. So far, no problem so far. And we had launched the integration with Ethereum in around July this year. And we're almost ready to launch the integration with Bitcoin. So I want to pass this to my colleague Weijia to talk about the technologies behind Wanchain.
Thank you. It's great to come back to Texas Bitcoin Conference. We were here last year. And I think my presentation is about technology. And technology normally is very boring. So I try to make myself very clear and try to bring some aha moments here so that you can understand technology. The first thing I want to do is to explain and clarify some concepts. Sometimes when we get the concept wrong, we get the terminology wrong, we don't get it. And when you don't get it, you get lost, and you don't like it, right? The first terminology I want to introduce is about Wanchain. What is Wanchain? And then we'll talk about what is Wanchain, right? And Wan can mean different things. In US, one means number one. But in Chinese, one means 10,000. So one chain is a 10,000 chain. It's not number one chain, right? So one in World Wide Web also means that it's one web. In Chinese, World Wide Web is one web, which means it's a web with 10,000 dimensions. And for one chain, it is a blockchain with 10,000 dimensions or 10,000 bridges. So now you understand what one chain do. One chain is a public blockchain that has 10,000 bridges to connect to 10,000 blockchains or can connect to 10,000 LAN chains. And as you know, LAN in network terminology means local area network, while WAN in network terminology means wide area network. So our one chain means a public chain. Our LAN chain means private chain or internal chain. So when we were here last year, we did not do anything. We just saw personal juggling, and we did not present anything because we did not have anything to show. We just had a white paper. Then in January 18, when we get to Miami, we launched the mainnet. I was with Jack in the airport because I could not decide whether I would want to go or not because the mainnet may not be launched. So I bought the ticket one day before the airplane departing for Miami, and then I met Jack in the airport, and Jack was using his cell phone to access the browser with Wanchain. He said to me, "Well, Jack, it was wrong." Okay, but I said, "It only works on that desktop." He said, "But people are going to use mobile to see our website, right?" So I have to call Beijing in their midnight time, I asked them to fix it. So we launched successfully our mainnet on January 18, 2018 with the Miami conference. And after that, we have more challenges coming in, as you know. When the blockchain is launched, you have scalability issues, you have reliability issues, you have usability issues, and availability issues. It took us a couple months to make it stable. And then we have also support for ICO and other things. And once we have a solid blockchain, we start to build bridges. And the first bridge we made was to build a bridge to Ethereum, connecting our Ether with our blockchain. So that was done in July this year. So when we did that, people were saying, "What's the use of that? You put Ether into one chain. What's the use of that?" And there's no use. But once you have the second bridge, you have the third bridge, you have thousands of bridges connected to one chain, you begin to see the value. So early this month, we did a beta release for a bridge connecting to Bitcoin. Now you can port Bitcoin asset to one chain. And you can also port Ethereum asset, the ERC20 asset to one chain. So this means that different coins, different assets in different blockchains can be ported into one chain, into one format, which is called WRC format. So when we build application, it's very simple. You just need to build an application to deal with WRC20. So this is our second phase. And then next year, we're going to, when you have more bridges coming in, you have scalability issue, reliability issue, all these enterprise issues are going to come in. So we need to solve the consensus problem, solve the reliability problem, scalability problem, and we need to build more bridges to other blockchains. So this slide answers the question, where is one chain? Okay. One chain has been deployed globally. We have different mining nodes in different data centers, kind of in different countries. And then we have client nodes that you can download or you can compile. It depends you are a developer or just normal user. Once you download these nodes, you can run it in Linux, in Windows, or Macintosh. And with those client nodes, you can run browser, wallets, smart contracts, or decentralized application. Just like anything you do with Ethereum, you can do it on one chain. And we have also cross-chain features. And this is a diagram from white paper. I show this one to let you know that what we are doing is just following the vision we have, the things we describe in our white paper. So the middle layer is a one-chain blockchain. And then the top layer are the kind of well-known chains such as Ethereum blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, Alcon chain, Stellar blockchain, etc. So we're building bridges to those chains. And the bottom parts are the NAND chains. These are the chains such as Hyperledger chains like Fabric, Borrow, Indy, and we also have our Wanchain NAND chain. So this is in the white paper. Now see what we have done. It's exactly the same diagram. We just add releases to it. So the middle one, 1.x, is our mainnet. It's the 1.0. We basically have the Wanchain launch with privacy protections. And then 2.x is the bridge that goes to Ethereum blockchain. And then 3.x is the bridge to Bitcoin chain, which we're going to production release by the end of this year. And then 3.x will be connecting to LAN chains, and these could be bridges or could be tunnels, like connecting to Hyperledger, Fabric, Indy, a program for identity management, Borrow, a kind of Ethereum version of blockchain on Hyperledger project. We're also connecting to our own LAN chain. So as you can see, what we are doing is the same as what we promised in our white paper. Now go to the big capacity we have, which is cross-chain. Cross-chain is very complex, but when you simplify, it becomes very straightforward. We have common nodes that just like an Ethereum node that does the consensus and does the mining for one chain. And then we have cross-chain nodes that listens to smart contract in Ethereum blockchain and Wanchain blockchain. So basically listen to both sides. So when there are transactions, there are events on any of the chain, the cross-chain nodes detects it and do the processing and notify or transfer the asset to the other side. So once we have the Wanchain blockchain built, we have the bridges built, it becomes straightforward to build application on top of it. This is an application that we make it open source for Wanchain. This is the multi-asset wallet. Basically, you can create account with Ethereum account, you can create account for Bitcoin, you can create account, of course, for Wanchain. And you can do transactions on one wallet for different coins, different assets for different blockchains. And this one is our multi-chain browser. We can browse any transactions in one chain. We can also browse cross-chain transactions for Ethereum and Bitcoin. Then I'm going to show kind of schematic mechanism for cross-chain decentralized exchange. And it's interesting, it's very motivating because we have two great developers coming here to demonstrate to you the application they built for cross-chain decentralized exchange. And the schematic diagram shows here, kind of, it's very simple. On the left-hand side here, if you, on your left-hand side here are the external blockchain, like Ethereum or Bitcoin. And then we have different releases that connect these blockchain to one chain, right? And these releases can be consolidated into one. I showed it here so that it become more real. So once you have these assets get to one chain and make it WRC20 format, you can build exchanges to do transactions or do the exchanges on these coins. So basically you can port Ethereum coin to one chain, make it WRC20 format, exchange it to a Bitcoin format, and then exchange it back to Bitcoin. And these can be done kind of behind the scene. So the user can only need to see Bitcoin, Ether to Bitcoin. He doesn't need to, or he or she doesn't need to see all the transactions behind the scene. And this is a kind of decentralized exchange schematic diagram. On the left side is the maker. He offers something, tell the blockchain what he wants to sell, how much he wants to sell. And then on the right-hand side is a taker that sees the order and then decide whether he wants to take it or not. Then the ordering processing unit will just process it. And once there's a match, it processes it, and then the smart contract would kind of do the transactions on both sides to fulfill the transaction. Now I'm going to give the stage to Harry and Jamal to show you the real demo.
Before I started, I just give some background about myself. So my name is Lini. I'm now the Vice President of Wanchain Foundation, leading the business development team. And actually, I'm based in Beijing. So I have been taking a tedious and a long flight, takes over 30 hours from Beijing to Austin. So just I want to make an introduction to the business development that Wanchain is undergoing for the past half a year. Unlike what we just presented, the BD part is always have a lot of fun inside because you are talking to the projects and project teams, to various people, to convince them to build their application projects on top of us. This is our priority. So what will be the value proposition to attract the good, decent projects to be built on top of Wanchain? We have three, I think, the key features. The first part is the cross-chain capability. As you know, Wanchain is the industrial leader in the cross-chain and interoperability functions that is unique right now in the world. There's many of the projects are going to in this field, but Wanchain is the very first one in the world who do realize the cross-chain functions, and perhaps later we can see my colleagues, Harry and Jeremiah, to show you the real demo. You know why some kind of small incident happened? Because it's a real one. It's not just we record a video and play to you, but it's a real one. So that's the cross-chain capability, which can help a lot of projects or the decentralized applications to fully utilize this cross-chain capability. And the second is our ecosystem. So the Wanchain's ecosystem is kind of different from the ecosystem wording you hear about previously. So I will going to elaborate some more details in my next slide, how the differentiation of Wanchain's ecosystem. So to help all the startup or the existing business to embrace the blockchain technology, we set up an entity called WanLabs. So the WanLabs is like an accelerator or the incubator under the fully support by the Wanchain Foundation to offering services like technical, financial, marketing and PR, partners introduction, token economics design, this whole bunch of the full set of advisory services to the projects to help them to really use the blockchain essence to build their applications. And the third one will be the user-friendly interface, as you can see on Wanchain. Because we are using the same programming language Solidity as Ethereum, which means all the Ethereum developers can get started very quickly and to leverage all the resources, tools, and services which they are already familiar with. So that's the three key fundamentals I can see. It's the most important value proposition for Wanchain. So the next slide, I'm not going into details of this page because this is a holistic picture of the Wanchain ecosystem right now. Although we started not long time before, but we rapidly grow up our ecosystem full of the partners, projects, you can see covering all the different aspects of the life, no matter in financial services, payment, even insurance, decentralized exchange, real estate, wallets, etc. So it's going to be quite a long time if I introduce by details how this ecosystem project works, instead of using a use case simply to illustrate the network effects of the feature, the Wanchain ecosystem. So these projects are right now under the Wanchain ecosystem. So which means these projects is going to be build their applications on top of Wanchain. So in the circle, new place is an e-commerce protocol from the team based in France. So they are going to set up an e-commerce protocol which facilitates all the buyers and sellers across the world easily access using the blockchain technology to promoting their business. So for this kind of e-commerce blockchain-based project, definitely they will using the cross-border payment, which Alchemy is a cross-border payment, crypto payment protocol inside the Wanchain ecosystem, which can coordinate with the new place to providing the payment services. And also, as we all know, the blockchain project definitely needs crypto wallet, right? So Crypto Curve and Thea are two crypto wallets right now in the Wanchain ecosystem providing the wallet services, one from US, one from China. And Kronos is asset management services. It's going to provide the asset, very professional asset management services to all the projects inside the ecosystem. And of course, in a mature ecosystem business model, stablecoin is quite important. As we can see, the Tether and a bunch of new stablecoins came out recently. So here we have a partner, MakerDAO. So that DAI stablecoin will be introduced into the Wanchain ecosystem to providing the services to the rest of the projects right now. And finally, we have Wanfans. So Wanfans is a purely decentralized, self-governed community by our community fans. So the Wanfans will providing the community and marketing penetration services for all these Wanchain ecosystem projects globally. So this is just a use case to show how these interactions between all the projects inside our ecosystem. So actually, the network effects can bring more values to each project independently. And I want to emphasize Wanchain, as you can see, is really a global team linking the East and the West. We have to admit there are three major crypto markets right now in the world, which are States, North America, of course, Asia, and Europe. So thanks to the global presence of Wanchain team, we have the head office located in Austin, here in Texas. We have a very strong R&D team based in Beijing. We have the BD offices, regional offices in Spain, in London, as you can find on the map. And also we have a lot of ties in the Asian market. Now we have offices in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam. And the regional offices are adding day and day. So we are really linking the East to the West, leverage the different mentalities, different knowledge about the understanding of blockchain, so which could be very helpful to the projects we are helping. So the final part, I will speak a little about the policy or right now the information in China, as you may feel very interested in. So the Chinese government, the attitude right now to blockchain is very supportive. As the president of Xi Jinping proposed an initiative called BBCA. So here BBCA stands for Big Data, Blockchain, Cloud Computing, plus Artificial Intelligence. So this initiative is widely adopted by many technology companies right now in China. As we can see, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, Jingdong, they are all using the blockchain somehow in their business. And also we have a tokenless blockchain, which is more like a private or consortium blockchain. And what kind of services we offer? It's like the traceability, the immutable data will be stored in this kind of consortium blockchains without issuing the tokens. Also, we have right now the traditional ICO versus the new coming tendency called security token offering. And Wanchain is also working on the study and research on the regulations, how to help many of our ecosystem projects to be converted to STO, but under the fully legal compliant to the different jurisdictions from the States, from the Asia, from the Europe. Okay, so that is my part. So I will hand back to Harry and Jeremiah for the real demo as we see before.
All right, we'll give this another go. Hopefully no connection problems.
Yeah.
On a different laptop, so.
You guys see anything?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, it's a bit dark, unfortunately, but hopefully you can see enough to follow along. So just to recap what I was saying before, we built out this decentralized exchange that uses the cross-chain feature. So what we want to do is exchange Ethereum and Bitcoin using Wanchain. But to do that, basically, we're going to need to do a few steps, which I'll let Harry talk about.
Yep, so it's a 3-step process. In this example, we have the cross-chain, all these things you've been hearing about how we can go cross-chain. This is an example of an application going cross-chain. So step 1 is we're going to go from Ethereum into WETH, which is Wanchain Ethereum. To do that, it's as simple as clicking that button. Right now, we've officially submitted that transaction, and it's not an immediate process, but during this talk, we will see that complete. But there's a few steps that this goes through. That's locking. As soon as it locks, then we redeem it. And right now, you can see on the top left that it's locking. While it's doing that, let's go ahead and do the decentralized exchange part, which is we're going to take WETH, which is a WRC20 token, and we're going to trade that for WBTC without ever sending our funds to a wallet, for example. Like if you go on other exchanges to deposit in their exchange, you have to send the funds. In this example, you would just have a wallet, and a smart contract essentially moves your money for you, which is it's pretty interesting. So if I want to trade WETH for WBTC, I just define the amount there, and then I grant permission, just like you would with MetaMask. This is our equivalent called WanMask. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm approving for this smart contract to move my funds. And so right now it's listening for that approval on the blockchain. I just want to preface also that this is all real. There's no simulations here. We're actually going cross-chain. We're actually, doing the decentralized exchange, and then we're going to pop out into Bitcoin and initiate that transaction. So we've essentially taken Ethereum and turned it into Bitcoin using Wanchain's cross-chain. And so you can see up in the top left, that's locked. The next step is it's going to start confirming, and then at that point, our WETH balance will increase. I'll go ahead and initiate. Do you have anything to add to that, Jeremiah?
No, maybe actually yes, a little bit. Just for that cross-chain part, there's a couple statuses that we see. We see first a locked, and then we see it confirmed. Basically, what's going on is we sent our funds, our Ethereum funds, to a validating node, which we call a storeman. Once the storeman receives that, it is at that point locked, and then they will start a process of issuing the WETH tokens, and at that point, when that's complete, we'll see it turn to confirmed.
And so just to give you, I know we're kind of short on time, but to give you the example of going out to Bitcoin, we would do the similar thing where we would say, okay, how many WBTCs, because they're one-to-one with Bitcoin, so how many of these do we want to push out to Bitcoin? And that's how we facilitate that. So you can see the transaction on the top left, the cross-chain is complete.
We lost our image.
We did. Of course you did. The cross-chain has completed, which you will see in a few seconds. And so we've initiated the Bitcoin cross-chain. Jeez. Oops. Okay. So we've completed that, and now we've started the Bitcoin cross-chain. And that's a longer process due to block time. So given all the technical difficulties, I guess what we're excited to show you is that, Jeremiah and I prototyped this. It's a working prototype in like 2 weeks. And I think the future for dApp developers is building using our technology so you can accept multiple currencies and do things cross-chain. So we're trying to make it as easy as we can for developers to do what we did. So, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. With that, we'll hand it over to Oliver to finish up our piece.
Hello. Hey everyone, so I'm Oliver Birch, and I'm head of communications at Wanchain. I joined Wanchain in August 2017 when our international community was comprised of around 70 members. And we knew the importance at the time that we had to build an impressive and large community because the cryptocurrency movement that started in 2009 was a global and borderless phenomenon. And today, our community is over 200,000 followers from across all these various social channels from over 100 countries. We've already had over 30 meetups, both technical and non-technical. We've also been working behind the scenes on a developer community, which, as Lenny was saying, leveraging Ethereum's current infrastructure and developer community, we're able to provide these set of new tools to build out privacy and cross-chain dApps. What's important about this picture is realizing that it's not just about bridging blockchains on the technical side. It's also about bridging all the communities that are part of all these different blockchains. And we will know we've made it when someone goes into a grocery store or the movies and they can use any cryptocurrency across a multitude of blockchains without realizing that all these blockchains are interacting in the background. Same as today, 99% of users on the internet don't understand how the underlying protocol works. It's the same case with blockchain. You don't need to understand how it works, but you need to be able to transact value in a seamless way. So Maker is the first truly decentralized stablecoin platform. There are really the 4 types of stablecoins. There's crypto, commodity, and fiat-backed. And then there's non-collateral, which is based purely on algorithms, supply and demand. And this was our first cross-chain ERC-20. And right now, you use Ether as collateral to generate DAI, which is the stablecoin. But on Wanchain, you'll be able to use Bitcoin and all these other digital assets. We've also been joining leading work groups, like the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance and Hyperledger, to start talking to enterprise and find out what the current problems are and how we can solve them. Because what's happened way too often in the past, we've been building solutions and then looking for problems. So we're trying to take a slower approach. We're still at the early stage of the adoption cycle, but things are moving way faster, Moore's law. Just going back to what Jack was saying, in the early days of the internet, no one imagined that 40 years after, you'd be able to listen to music on your phone or talk to someone that's 10,000 miles away. And currently, we're building an infrastructure that'll be set out for the future, just as the internet was, where you build all these applications out. And we won't stop, and we really believe that Wanchain will be the connector of all these different public and private chains. Thank you. Hello. If you have any questions, you can ask us outside because we're short on time. Thanks.